I stood in the tasting room of my vineyard, watching the afternoon sunlight filter through the tall windows and cast golden patterns across the oak floors. The room smelled of earth and fermenting grapes, a scent that had become as familiar to me as my own heartbeat. 7 years ago, I had purchased this property with everything I had saved from my career in agricultural consulting. The vineyard sprawled across 42 acres of rolling hills in Napa Valley, a dream I had nurtured since childhood when I first tasted wine at my grandfather's table. My family had thought I was insane. My mother had called it a waste of money. My sister Victoria had laughed outright, saying I would fail within a year, but I had proven them all wrong. Through countless 18-hour days, through harvests that left my hands bleeding and my back aching, through winters when I questioned every decision I had made, I had built something extraordinary. The vineyard was now valued at $3.1 million and our wines had won awards from San Francisco to New York. I walked through the rows of vines, checking the Cabernet Sauvignon grapes that would be ready for harvest in 6 weeks. The clusters hung heavy and dark, almost black in the fading light. My vineyard manager, Javier, had already left for the day, and I enjoyed these quiet evening walks alone. The silence was broken only by the distant sound of birds settling into the trees that bordered the property. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. The phone buzzed again, then again. Finally, I pulled it out and saw 3 missed calls from my mother and 2 text messages asking when I would be home. Home. The word felt strange. I had not lived in my childhood house for 15 years, yet my mother still referred to it as my home. I drove to my parents' house that evening out of obligation rather than desire. My relationship with my family had grown strained over the years, particularly after I refused to give Victoria money to start her boutique 3 years ago. She had never forgiven me for that refusal, despite the fact that I had been drowning in debt from the vineyard at the time. The house looked the same as it always had, a sprawling ranch-style home with a perfectly manicured lawn. My father's car was in the driveway next to Victoria's white sedan. I parked behind them and sat for a moment, gathering the energy to face whatever drama awaited me inside. I let myself in through the front door. Voices drifted from the kitchen, animated and excited. I walked down the hallway, my footsteps silent on the carpet. As I approached, I heard Victoria's voice, high and breathless with excitement. The vineyard would be absolutely perfect. Can you imagine 300 guests walking through the vines, the ceremony at sunset by the oak grove? It would be like something out of a magazine. I froze in the hallway, just out of sight. My mother's voice responded, warm and encouraging. I think it sounds wonderful, sweetheart. Catherine owns that property and family is family. She will understand. But what if she says no? Victoria asked. You know how she is, always so uptight about her precious vineyard. She will not say no. My mother said firmly. That land is shared family property in spirit if not on paper. We raised her to understand family obligations. She has no choice but to say yes. I felt my stomach drop. I stood completely still, barely breathing as they continued planning Victoria's wedding at my vineyard. They discussed guest counts, catering options, tent placements. They talked about using my tasting room for the reception, my private residence for Victoria to get ready, my carefully cultivated grounds as their personal venue. Not once did anyone suggest asking me first. My father's voice joined the conversation. We should probably mention it to Catherine soon. The wedding is only 3 months away. I will talk to her tonight. My mother said she will say yes. I am certain of it. I backed away from the kitchen, my mind racing. Part of me wanted to storm in and shut down their plans immediately, but something held me back. I wanted to see how far they would take this, how much they assumed they could simply take from me without asking. I walked into the kitchen with a bright smile. Hi everyone. Sorry I am late. Traffic was terrible. My mother turned and embraced me, her perfume overwhelming. Catherine, darling, we were just talking about you. Nothing bad, I hope, I said lightly. Victoria smiled at me, the same smile she had used since childhood when she wanted something. Actually, I have the most exciting news. Timothy proposed last month and we are getting married in October. Congratulations, I said, keeping my voice neutral. That is wonderful news. Thank you. Victoria clasped her hands together. We have been looking at venues, but everything is so expensive or already booked. Then Mom had this brilliant idea. I waited, watching my mother's face. We were thinking, my mother said carefully, that your vineyard would be the perfect location. It is so beautiful and it would mean so much to have the wedding at a family property. 300 guests, Victoria added quickly. In October during harvest season, just imagine how gorgeous it would be. I looked at each of them in turn. My mother's expectant smile, Victoria's eager eyes, my father's uncomfortable expression, as if he knew this was wrong but lacked the courage to say so. Let me think about it, I said. Victoria's face fell. Think about it, Catherine. I am your sister. This is my wedding. I understand that, I said calmly. But October is our busiest season. Harvest happens in October. I have contracts, tours scheduled, a full production timeline. Surely you can reschedule some things, my mother said. Family should come first. I felt the old familiar pressure, the weight of expectations I had carried my entire childhood. My mother had always made it clear that Victoria was the favorite, the beautiful one, the charming one. I was the practical daughter, the one who worked hard and asked for nothing. Even now, standing in this kitchen with my own successful business behind me, I felt like the overlooked child again. I will think about it, I repeated. This is a big decision. What is there to think about? Victoria's voice rose. I am not asking you to pay for anything. Just to use the space. Just the space. I echoed. 300 people walking through my vineyard during harvest, using my facilities, accessing my private property. It is not like you are using it that day, Victoria said. Audacity was breathtaking. Actually, I am using it every day. It is a working vineyard, not a venue. My mother stood and walked over to me, placing her hand on my arm. Catherine, sweetheart, I know you have worked hard on that property. We are all very proud of you, but family is more important than business. Victoria only gets married once. This day is special. I hope she only gets married once, I said dryly. Given the divorce rates, one can never be certain. That is not funny, Victoria snapped. I was not joking. I pulled my arm from my mother's grasp. I said, I will think about it. Can we please talk about something else? The rest of the dinner was tense. Victoria barely spoke to me. My mother kept bringing up wedding details, each comment a subtle pressure tactic. My father ate in silence, occasionally glancing at me with what might have been sympathy. I left as soon as I could politely escape, claiming an early morning at the vineyard. In my car, I sat with my hands on the steering wheel, trying to process what had happened. They had already planned the entire wedding at my property before even asking me. The entitlement was staggering. Over the next week, the pressure intensified. My mother called daily. Victoria sent long text messages about how hurt she was by my hesitation. Even my Aunt Rosemary, whom I had not spoken to in 2 years, called to tell me how selfish I was being. It is just one day, Rosemary said. One day out of your life to make your sister happy. It is not just one day, I explained for the 10th time. It is weeks of preparation, disruption to my operations, liability issues, insurance concerns. This is my business. Always so focused on money, Rosemary said disapprovingly. You know, Catherine, success means nothing if you have no family to share it with. I hung up on her. The following Tuesday, I returned to my vineyard after a meeting in the city to find my mother's car parked near the tasting room. My stomach sank. I had not given her permission to visit, and she certainly did not have a key to the property. I found her walking through the vines with Victoria and a woman I did not recognize. They were deep in conversation, gesturing at different areas of the vineyard. I approached slowly, my anger building with each step. Mom, Victoria, what are you doing here? They turned and my mother smiled brightly. Catherine, perfect timing. This is Helena, our wedding planner. We were just showing her the space without asking me first. We did ask you, Victoria said. You said you would think about it. We assumed that meant yes. You assumed wrong. I turned to the wedding planner. I apologize for your wasted time, but this property is not available for events. Helena looked between us, clearly uncomfortable. I see. Perhaps I should step outside. That would be best, I said. After Helena left, my mother turned to me with an expression I knew well. Disappointment mixed with manipulation. Catherine, why are you being so difficult about this? Difficult. You brought a wedding planner to my property without permission. You are planning an event without my consent. Consent. Victoria scoffed. Listen to yourself. This is family land, it is my land, my name on the deed, my money that bought it, my work that made it successful. Family helped you. My mother said, we supported you when you wanted to buy this place. You told me I was making a mistake. You said I would fail. You offered no support, financial or otherwise. We supported you emotionally. My mother insisted. No, you did not. I felt 7 years of resentment rising. You have never once visited this vineyard when I did not specifically invite you. You have never asked about my business. You have never acknowledged any of my achievements. But now that I have something valuable, suddenly you want to use it. Victoria's face flushed red. I cannot believe how selfish you are. Do you know how embarrassing this is? I already told people the wedding would be here. That was your mistake, not mine. So, you are saying no? My mother asked quietly. I looked at both of them. These women who were supposed to love me, who instead saw me only as a resource to exploit. Something shifted inside me. I thought about their conversation in the kitchen, how they had assumed they could simply take what they wanted. I am not saying no, I said slowly. Relief flooded my mother's face. Oh, thank goodness. I knew you would see reason. I am saying I need time to consider the logistics. October is complicated, but you will let us do it, Victoria pressed. I am not making any promises, but I will think about it seriously and give you an answer by next week. Victoria hugged me and I stood stiffly in her embrace. Thank you so much. This is going to be perfect. You will see. After they left, I walked through my vineyard slowly, thinking. They had shown me exactly who they were. They had assumed, planned, and pushed forward without any real concern for my feelings or my business. The question was what I would do about it. I called my lawyer the next morning. His name was Gregory, and he had handled all my business contracts since I bought the vineyard. I need to understand something, I said. If I were to allow an event on my property, what kind of liability am I facing? Gregory explained the intricacies of event insurance, property liability, and the potential damages I could face if anything went wrong. For 300 guests, Catherine, you would need significant coverage. We are talking about alcohol, transportation, potential injuries. If someone drives drunk and has an accident after leaving your property, you could be held liable. Even if I am not hosting the event, if it is my family's wedding, your property, your liability, unless you have ironclad contracts and proper insurance in place, you are opening yourself up to serious risk. What would that insurance cost? He quoted me a figure that made me wells. And that is assuming you can even get coverage on such short notice. Most insurers want at least 6 months advanced notice for event policies of this size. I thanked him and hung up. Then I called my accountant Patricia and explained the situation. Are they paying you a venue fee? Patricia asked. They have not mentioned money at all. They seem to think because we are family I should provide it for free. Catherine, your property generates revenue. If you close it for a weekend during harvest season, you are losing money. Tour bookings, tasting room sales, private events that actually pay. Have you calculated the opportunity cost? I had not, but Patricia ran the numbers for me. Between lost revenue and the insurance costs Gregory had quoted, allowing Victoria's wedding at my vineyard would cost me over $40,000. $40,000, I repeated slowly. At minimum, that is not counting potential damage to your vines, any accidents, or the disruption to your harvest schedule. Catherine, as your accountant, I have to advise against this. It makes no financial sense. I spent the next 3 days researching wedding venues in Napa Valley. The average cost for a 300-person wedding at a vineyard was between $15 and $30, not including catering or other services. Some venues charged as much as $50,000 just for the space. My family expected me to provide this for free. I made my decision on Thursday afternoon while walking through my Pen Noir section. The grapes were almost ready, their skins thin and translucent in the sunlight. This was my life's work. These vines, this soil, this business I had built from nothing. I had sacrificed relationships, time, and my own physical health to make this vineyard successful, and my family thought they could simply take it whenever they wanted. I called my mother that evening. I have made my decision about the wedding. Oh, wonderful, she said. Victoria will be so pleased. I am saying yes to hosting the wedding. My mother actually squealed. Catherine, thank you. Thank you so much. This means the world to us. However, there are conditions, of course. Whatever you need, I need everything in writing. A proper contract outlining the date, time, guest count, and areas of the property that can be accessed. I need proof of liability insurance covering the event. And I need a deposit. There was a PAW deposit. Yes. Given the liability I'm taking on and the revenue I will lose by closing the vineyard for the weekend, I need a deposit of $10,000 refundable if the event proceeds without issues. Catherine, this is family. We are not going to damage anything. Then the deposit will be returned. It is standard practice for any event venue. I have consulted with my lawyer and accountant and they both insist on it. My mother's voice cooled considerably. Let me discuss this with your father and Victoria. Of course, but I need the deposit and signed contract within 2 weeks if the wedding is happening in October. Insurance takes time to arrange. I hung up, feeling oddly calm. I knew what would happen next. My family would be outraged at the suggestion they should pay anything. They would accuse me of being greedy, of putting money before family. They would pressure and guilt and manipulate. But I had learned something important over the past week. I had learned that my family saw me not as a person, but as a resource. They valued my property, but not my time. They wanted my success, but resented the work it had required. The next morning, I met with Gregory again. I need you to draft a very specific contract for an event at the vineyard. You are going through with it. Maybe not, but I want to be prepared either way. Gregory and I spent 2 hours going over every detail. The contract would specify exact areas of access, time limitations, guest count restrictions, and damage clauses. It would require a certificate of insurance naming me as an additional insured party. It would include a detailed schedule of events and a clause stating that any deviation from the agreed-upon plan would result in immediate termination of the event. "This is very thorough," Gregory said. "Most families do not require this level of documentation. Most families do not assume they can use your property without asking first." He nodded. "Fair point. I will have this ready for you by Monday." I left his office feeling more in control than I had in weeks. Whatever happened next, I would be ready. My mother called me on Saturday morning. I was in the vineyard working with Javier on the irrigation system when my phone rang. I almost did not answer, but something told me this conversation would be important. "Catherine, we need to talk about this deposit situation." "Good morning to you too, Mom. Your father and I are very disappointed." Victoria is in tears. She cannot believe you would charge your own sister for her wedding. "I am not charging for the wedding. I am requiring standard insurance and a damage deposit. Any venue would require the same. But we are not any venue, we are family." "Exactly. Which makes it even more important to have everything documented properly. If something goes wrong, I do not want family relationships destroyed over money disputes." My mother's voice took on the martied tone I knew so well. "You know we cannot afford 10 zalazin right now. Your father's business has been slow. Then perhaps Victoria should consider a less expensive venue. There are lovely parks that rent for a few hundred." "Parks, Catherine, this is her wedding day. The most important day of her life. How can you be so heartless?" "I am being practical, Mom. Do you have any idea what my property is worth? What could happen if 300 people are walking through it unsupervised? One lawsuit could destroy everything I have built." "Nothing is going to happen. You are being paranoid. I am being responsible." Gregory explained the liability issues to me very clearly. "Without proper insurance, I could lose everything." "Gregory." My mother said his name like a curse, always hiding behind lawyers and accountants. "When did you become so cold, Catherine?" "Around the time my family started treating my business like their personal playground," she gasped. "That is a horrible thing to say. It is the truth. You and Victoria walked through my property with a wedding planner without my permission. You planned an entire event without asking me first. You expected me to hand over my business for free because we share DNA. Family is supposed to support each other. Support goes both ways, Mom. When have you supported me? When I bought this vineyard, you told everyone I was crazy. When I won my first award, you did not even come to the ceremony. When I was working 20-hour days that first year, did you offer to help? Did anyone?" Silence on the other end. "I am willing to host the wedding," I continued, my voice steady. "But I need proper insurance and a deposit. Those are my terms. Take them or find another venue. Victoria will never forgive you for this." "Then I suppose she will not forgive me." I hung up and stared at my phone for a long moment. My hands were shaking slightly. I had never spoken to my mother that way before. Some part of me expected lightning to strike or the ground to open up. Instead, the sun continued shining and the birds continued singing. Javier walked over, concern on his face. "Everything okay, boss? Family drama? Nothing new." He nodded sympathetically. "My sister wanted to have her quinceañera here last year. I had to explain that I work here. I do not own it." "What did she say?" "She was mad for about a week. Then she found a nice hall in town and got over it." He paused. "Your family will get over it too." I wanted to believe him, but I knew my family better than that. Over the next week, I received a barrage of messages. Victoria sent me long texts about how I was ruining her life. My mother called repeatedly, alternating between guilt trips and anger. Even distant relatives I barely knew contacted me to tell me I was being selfish. The only person who did not contact me was my father. I found that more telling than anything else. On Wednesday, Victoria showed up at the vineyard unannounced. I was in the lab testing pH levels when Javier came to find me. "Your sister is here. She seems upset." I sighed and headed to the tasting room. Victoria sat at one of the tables, her eyes red from crying. Real tears or calculated ones? I could never tell with her. "We need to talk," she said. "I am listening." "Why are you doing this to me? What did I ever do to you?" The question was so absurd I almost laughed. "Victoria, you have spent your entire life treating me like an ATM in a doormat. You borrowed money you never paid back. You took credit for my work in college. You convinced Mom and Dad that I was the cold, selfish daughter while you were the warm, loving one. That is not true. It is completely true. And now you want to use my property for free. And when I ask for basic protections, I am the villain." Victoria's tears stopped abruptly. "You know what? I have tried to be nice. I have tried to be understanding. But the truth is you are jealous. Jealous, yes, jealous that I am getting married and you are alone. Jealous that people actually like me while you hide out here with your vines. Jealous that I have always been Mom's favorite. Finally, some honesty. She stood up. I hope you are happy, Catherine. I hope your precious vineyard keeps you warm at night because you are going to end up alone. Nobody wants to be around someone so cold and bitter. If I am cold and bitter, maybe it is because I spent my whole life being used by people who claim to love me. Victoria grabbed her purse. We are having the wedding here whether you like it or not. This is family land, no matter what your precious deed says. Actually, it is not. And if you try to have an event here without a proper contract and insurance, I will call the police and have everyone removed for trespassing. You would not dare. Try me. She stared at me for a long moment, perhaps finally realizing I was serious. Then she turned and walked out, slamming the door behind her. I sat down at the table she had vacated, my heart pounding. Javier appeared with a glass of our Chardonnay. You look like you need this. Thank you. I took a sip, letting the cool, crisp taste ground me. That was my sister, I gathered. She seems like a piece of work. That is putting it mildly. That evening, I sat in my office going through emails when I found something that made my blood run cold. It was a marketing email from a local catering company thanking me for choosing them for my upcoming October event. I had not contacted any catering companies. I called the number immediately. A cheerful woman answered. This is Catherine. I received an email about an event in October, but I did not book anything with your company. Oh, let me check. Yes, here it is, Catherine's Vineyard. October 12th, 300 guests. Your sister Victoria made the booking 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, before I had even agreed to host the event. Is there a problem? Yes. I did not authorize this booking. I need you to cancel it immediately. But we have already ordered specialty items. There will be cancellation fees. Send those fees to Victoria. This is not my event. I hung up and immediately started searching my emails more carefully. What I found was infuriating. Victoria had been booking vendors using my name and property for over a month. She had hired a florist, a photographer, a DJ, and a rental company for tables and chairs. Everything was scheduled for October 12th at my vineyard. I called Victoria immediately. She answered on the 4th ring, her voice weary. What do you want, Catherine? I want to know why you have been booking vendors for my property without permission. I was just being proactive. I knew you would say yes eventually. I have not said yes. In fact, I specifically told you I needed insurance and a deposit first. Oh, stop being so dramatic. Nobody is going to get hurt at a wedding. That is not the point. The point is you have been using my name and property to make bookings without authorization. That is fraud, Victoria. Fraud. Are you seriously threatening me with legal action? I am telling you that what you did was illegal. You do not have permission to use my property or my business name. It is a family property. For the last time, it is not. And if you continue this behavior, I will take legal action. Victoria laughed a harsh sound. Go ahead, sue your own sister. That will look great for your precious reputation. She hung up on me. I sat staring at my phone, furious and hurt in equal measure. How had my family become these people? Or had they always been this way, and I had just been too blind to see it? I called Gregory the next morning and explained what Victoria had done. She committed fraud, he said simply. She used your business identity to enter into contracts without authorization. What are my options? You could press charges, but that would be extreme. More likely, you send cease and desist letters to all the vendors explaining that the bookings were made without your knowledge or consent. Most will understand and cancel without penalty once they know the situation. Do it, send the letters. Catherine, are you sure? This will create significant family tension. The tension already exists. I am just finally acknowledging it. Over the next few days, vendors started calling. The florist was understanding. The photographer was annoyed but willing to cancel. The rental company wanted documentation before they would release the booking. Then my mother called and she was angrier than I had ever heard her. Do you know what you have done? Victoria is humiliated. All the vendors are calling her asking about cancellations. How could you embarrass her like this? I did not embarrass her. She embarrassed herself by booking vendors without permission. And she was trying to plan her wedding at my property without my consent. Mom, she committed fraud. Actual legal fraud. Oh, do not be so dramatic. Nobody is going to press charges over a wedding. My mother gasped. You would send your own sister to jail. No, but I would sue her for damages if she causes any financial harm to my business. I cannot believe what you have become. Your grandfather would be ashamed. That struck a nerve. My grandfather had been the one person in my family who always supported me. He had died 5 years ago, and I still missed him terribly. Grandfather would understand business. He ran his own company for 40 years. He would know that what Victoria did was wrong. He would know that family matters more than money. He would know that family should not steal from each other. My mother hung up on me. I sat in my office feeling completely drained. This had escalated far beyond a simple wedding venue dispute. Lines had been drawn and I was on one side while my entire family was on the other. That weekend, I visited my grandfather's grave. The cemetery was quiet, peaceful. I sat on the grass next to his headstone and talked to him the way I used to when he was alive. I do not know what to do, Grandpa. They want to take everything I worked for, and they think they are entitled to it because we are related. You always told me to stand up for myself. But it is hard when standing up means losing my family. A breeze rustled through the trees, and I could almost hear his voice. He would have told me to stop being weak. He would have reminded me that real family supports your success, not exploits it. I left the cemetery feeling more resolved. I called Gregory on Monday morning. I want to move forward with the contract, the most ironclad version we discussed. Are you sure you understand this might end any possibility of hosting the wedding? I am counting on it. The contract arrived by email that afternoon. It was 12 pages long, filled with clauses and subclauses and legalese that made my head spin. But the essential points were clear. Limited access to specified areas only. Mandatory insurance naming me as additionally insured and 10,000 deposit, strict guest count limits, and severe penalties for any contract violations. I had the contract delivered to my parents' house by courier. Then I waited. The call came within an hour. My father for the first time in this entire ordeal. Catherine, this contract is absurd. No reasonable person would sign this. Hello, Dad. Nice of you to finally get involved. Your mother has been handling this, but I have been kept informed. This contract is insulting. It is standard for any venue. Actually, it is more lenient than most. The deposit alone is outrageous. The deposit is refundable and it is necessary to protect my business. Your business, he sighed heavily. When did you become so obsessed with money? When my family tried to steal from me. Nobody is stealing anything. We are trying to have a wedding at my expense. Dad, have you even looked at what this would cost me? The lost revenue, the insurance, the liability. Do any of you care about that? My father was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was careful. Your mother and Victoria seem to think that because we are family, you should want to do this for free. And what do you think? Another pause. I think they should have asked you properly from the beginning, but I also think you could be more flexible. I have been flexible. I agreed to host the wedding. I just need proper protections in place. Or $10 is a lot of money, Catherine. It is also a lot less than I could lose if something goes wrong. Dad, why are you all so opposed to treating this like any other business transaction? Because you are not any other business. You are our daughter. Victoria is your sister. Then maybe Victoria should treat me like a sister instead of a free venue. My father sighed again. I will talk to your mother. But Catherine, I do not think this is going to end the way you want it to. How do I want it to end? With everyone happy and together. That ship has sailed. He hung up and I sat staring at my computer screen. He was right. There was no outcome where everyone ended up happy. Either I caved to their demands and resented them forever, or I held firm and lost my family. Neither option felt like winning. Days passed. September arrived with cooler temperatures and the first hints of autumn color in the trees. The grapes were entering their final ripening stage, and I spent long hours in the vineyard checking sugar levels and planning the harvest schedule. I heard nothing from my family for 2 weeks. No calls, no texts, no surprise visits. It was the longest I had gone without contact since moving out of their house, and the silence was both relieving and unsettling. Then on September 15th, my mother called. We agreed to your contract. I almost dropped my phone. What? We talked to a few other venues and they all require similar things. We understand you need to protect your business. Victoria is willing to pay the deposit. Victoria is willing to pay. Yes, she has been saving money from her job. She can cover the 10,000. I felt suspicious immediately. This was too easy, too convenient. And the insurance. We have a meeting with an insurance broker next week. Everything will be handled properly. Mom, I need this in writing, the signed contract, proof of insurance, and the deposit before I confirm anything. Of course, Victoria will bring everything by next Friday. After she hung up, I sat in my office feeling deeply uneasy. This sudden capitulation made no sense. My family did not give up that easily, especially Victoria. Something was wrong, but I could not identify what. I called Gregory. They agreed to the contract. That is good news, is it not? I am not sure. It feels too convenient. Maybe they realized you were serious. Maybe they understand this is the only way to have the wedding at your property, maybe. But I have a bad feeling about this. Trust your instincts. But also, if they sign the contract and provide insurance, you are protected. That is the whole point of having a contract. He was right. I was protected. The contract was bulletproof. Even if they tried something, I had legal recourse. Friday came. Victoria arrived at the Vineyard at exactly 2 p.m. carrying a folder. She looked different, more subdued. Her usual confidence seemed diminished. I have everything you asked for, she said, setting the folder on my desk. I opened it. The contract was signed by Victoria and my parents. There was a certificate of insurance from a reputable company with me listed as additionally insured, and there was a cashier check for 10,000. This all looks in order, I said slowly. Good, so, we are confirmed for October 12th, assuming the insurance company does not find any issues. Yes, Victoria nodded. She looked like she wanted to say something else but did not. Instead, she turned to leave. Victoria, wait. She stopped but did not turn around. Are we okay, you and me? She turned then, and her expression was cold. We are contractually obligated to be okay. Is that not enough for you? I meant as sisters. Did you? She tilted her head. Because it seems like you have made it very clear that business comes before family. That is not fair. You are the one who tried to use my property without permission, and you are the one who could have just said yes. You could have made this easy, but you had to make it about money and lawyers and protecting yourself. She shook her head. We will never be okay again, Catherine. You made sure of that. She left and I sat holding the folder, feeling hollow. I had won. I had the contract, the insurance, the deposit. I was fully protected. So why did it feel like I had lost something important? The next month passed in a blur of harvest preparations. The Cabernet Sauvignon came in first, followed by the Merlot and Chardonnay. I worked 18-hour days supervising the picking, processing, and early fermentation. It was exhausting but satisfying work, the kind that made me remember why I had bought this vineyard in the first place. My family did not contact me at all during this time. No calls checking on harvest progress, no questions about the wedding setup. It was as if I had become invisible to them. 1 week before the wedding, my mother finally called. We need to do a final walkthrough of the property. Of course. When were you thinking? Tomorrow afternoon. Victoria, the wedding planner, Helena, and I will be there. That is fine. Come at 2 p.m. The walkthrough was tense and professional. Helena asked intelligent questions about electrical access, parking, and backup plans for rain. Victoria barely spoke to me. My mother maintained a brittle cheerfulness that fooled no one. The ceremony will be by the oak grove, Helena said, pointing to my favorite spot on the property. Chairs for 300 Eisel runner altar setup. That area can accommodate 300 chairs, I asked doubtfully. It will be tight but it will work, Helena assured me. We discussed reception logistics, vendor access times, and bathroom facilities. Everything seemed planned to the smallest detail. Too planned perhaps, but I could not find any fault with their preparations. Security will arrive at noon on October 12th, I said. They will monitor the property and ensure only authorized guests enter. Security, Victoria spoke for the first time. Yes, it is in the contract. I am hiring professional security to protect the property during the event. My mother and Victoria exchanged a look I could not quite interpret. That seems excessive, my mother said. It is standard for large events. The security company was recommended by my insurance broker. Fine, Victoria said shortly. If you need security to protect yourself from your own family, that is your choice. They left soon after, and I was alone in my vineyard again, watching the sunset behind the hills, and wondering what I had overlooked. October 12th arrived with perfect weather, clear skies, mild temperatures, just enough breeze to be comfortable. Wedding weather, people would call it. I stood in my office at 600 a.m. drinking coffee and watching the sunrise paint the vines gold. The security team arrived at noon as scheduled. There were 6 of them, all wearing professional uniforms and carrying radios. The head of security, a woman named Patricia, reviewed the property layout with me. We have guards at the main entrance, the service entrance, and 2 roving patrols, she explained. Nobody gets on the property without checking the guest list. Perfect. The guest list should arrive from the wedding planner by 100 p.m., and if it does not, then nobody gets in. Patricia nodded approvingly. Clear instructions, I like that. At 100 p.m. Helena, the wedding planner, called me. Catherine, there has been a small change of plans. My stomach dropped. What kind of change? The guest list is still being finalized. A few last-minute additions. Can we just have security let everyone through for now? Absolutely not. That violates our contract. I need the finalized guest list by 2 p.m., or the event cannot proceed. Catherine, be reasonable. It is just a few names. The contract specified 300 guests maximum. If you cannot provide a list confirming you are within that limit, I have to assume you are exceeding it. This is ridiculous. You are being deliberately difficult. I am enforcing the contract that your client signed. Guest list by 2 p.m. Helena, or I will cancel the event. I hung up and immediately called Gregory. I think something is wrong. What happened? I explained about the guest list. Gregory was quiet for a moment. Catherine, have you considered that they might be planning to ignore your guest limits? How would they do that? Security will not let anyone in without the list unless they try to overwhelm security if they tell more than 300 people to show up. What will your 6 security guards do? The possibility had not occurred to me. They would call the police for trespassing. Yes, but by then damage might be done. People could be on your property walking through your vines. So, what do I do? Wait for the guest list. If it does not arrive by 2 p.m., follow through on your threat, cancel the event. At 2 p.m., no guest list had arrived. I called Helena again and got voicemail. I called Victoria and got voicemail. I called my mother and she answered on the first ring. Catherine, please do not do anything rash. Where is the guest list? There has been a misunderstanding about the guest count. How many people are invited? My mother hesitated. 500. I actually laughed, a bitter sound. 500. The contract specified 300 maximum. We know, but we could not cut the list down. Everyone is family or close friends. Then you need a different venue. My property cannot safely accommodate 500 people. Catherine, the wedding starts in 4 hours. You cannot cancel now. I can and I will. You violated the contract. The event is canned. You will destroy your sister's wedding day over a technicality. No, you destroyed your sister's wedding day by lying about guest counts and trying to force me to accommodate double what we agreed on. I hung up and called Patricia. Nobody gets on this property. Not for a wedding, not for anything. If people show up, they are trespassing. Understood. What if they claim they have permission? They do not. I am the owner, and I am explicitly denying access. By 300 p.m., cars started arriving. I watched from my office window as vehicle after vehicle pulled up to the main gate. Patricia and her team turned them all away. I could see people arguing, gesturing angrily. Some tried to drive around to the service entrance where more security waited. My phone rang constantly. Victoria, my mother, my father, relatives whose names I barely recognized. I ignored them all. Instead, I called my lawyer. They tried to bring 500 guests. I told Gregory. Then you were right to cancel. Catherine, I want you to document everything. Take photos, videos, anything that shows you tried to enforce a reasonable contract and they violated it. I started recording from my window. The parking area at the entrance was filling with cars. People in fancy clothes stood around looking confused and angry. I saw Victoria arrive in a white limousine, saw her face when security told her she could not enter. Even from a distance, I could see her fury. Then things got worse. A large rental truck arrived, presumably with tables and chairs. The driver argued with security, trying to explain he had a delivery. Patricia stood firm. No access. A catering van, a florist van, the DJ's truck, all turned away at the gate. My mother called me, her voice shaking. Catherine, there are 300 people standing outside your vineyard. Victoria is in her wedding dress here. Please let them in. You told me 500 guests. I exaggerated. It is only 350. Please, the contract said 300 maximum. You agreed to that limit. We could not cut 50 people from the list. They are all important. Then you should have found a venue that could accommodate 350 people. Or you should have been honest with me from the beginning. Catherine, I am begging you. Please do not do this. You did this, Mom. Not me. You knew the rules and you chose to break them. She is your sister and you are both liars. I ended the call. At 400 p.m., the chaos at the gate was reaching a peak. Some guests were giving up and leaving. Others were still arguing with security. I saw Timothy, Victoria's fiancé, looking devastated in his tuxedo. Part of me felt sorry for him. He seemed like a decent person, caught up in my family's dysfunction. Then I saw Victoria do something that erased any sympathy I might have felt. She tried to climb the fence, actually attempted to scale the 6-foot barrier in her wedding dress. Security stopped her and she screamed at them. I could not hear the words from my office, but I could see her rage, her entitlement, her absolute certainty that she should get what she wanted regardless of rules or agreements. My father appeared and pulled her away from the fence. They had an animated argument, his hands gesturing. Finally, she turned and walked back to the limousine. Guests continued leaving. By 500 p.m., most had given up. By 600 p.m., the parking area was almost empty. A few stragglers remained, probably hoping for a last-minute change of heart that would never come. I walked outside for the first time since morning. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The vines rustled in the evening breeze. My beautiful, peaceful property had been completely untouched by the chaos that had raged at its borders. Patricia approached me. That was intense. Your family does not take no for an answer. No, they do not. For what it is worth, you did the right thing. We counted at least 400 people who tried to get in. If you had let them all access your property during harvest season, someone would have been hurt. Thank you. I appreciate you and your team holding the line. After security left, I sat on my porch and watched the last light fade from the sky. My phone had stopped ringing. The silence felt heavy, loaded with consequences I was only beginning to understand. The next day, I woke to find my phone full of voicemails and text messages. Most were from relatives telling me I was cruel, heartless, selfish. A few were from people I did not even know, friends of Victoria, who felt compelled to share their opinions about my character. I deleted them all without listening. My mother called at 10:00 a.m. I considered not answering, but curiosity won. I hope you are proud of yourself, she said without preamble. I am proud that I protected my business and enforced a contract you signed. You humiliated your sister in front of everyone she knows. The story is all over social media. People are calling you a monster, people who do not know the full story. What full story? That you refused to let your sister's wedding happen because of a guest count difference. The full story is that Victoria tried to bring 400 people to a venue that agreed to 300. The full story is that you all lied to me repeatedly. The full story is that you treated my business like something you could exploit without consequences. We are done, Catherine. Do you understand that? Victoria never wants to see you again. Your father is devastated. You have chosen your vineyard over your family. No, Mom. You chose to disrespect me and my business. You chose to break a contract. You chose to prioritize what you wanted over what we agreed to. I just enforced boundaries. Boundaries. She laughed bitterly. I raised you to be part of a family, not an island. You raised me to know my place, the quiet daughter. The one who works hard and asks for nothing. The one who should be grateful for any attention from her golden sister. Well, I am done with that role. Then I suppose we are done with you. She hung up. I sat in my kitchen staring at my phone, waiting to feel something. Regret, maybe sadness, but all I felt was relief. A weight I had been carrying my entire life had finally lifted. The days following the cancelled wedding were strange. I threw myself into work processing the harvest, managing fermentation, planning the next vintage. Javier and the rest of my staff never mentioned what had happened, though I was certain they had heard the story. You okay, boss? Javier asked one afternoon as we checked the barrel room. I am surprisingly okay actually, he nodded. Family can be complicated. My mother did not speak to me for a year after I moved out. Eventually she got over it. I do not think my family will get over this. Maybe not, but you will be okay either way. He was right. I would be okay. For the first time in my life, I had put my own needs first, and the world had not ended. 2 weeks after the wedding that never was, I received a letter from Victoria's lawyer. They were suing me for emotional distress and breach of contract. I read the complaint with a sense of detached amusement. They claimed I had agreed to host the wedding and then cancelled at the last minute, causing emotional harm and financial damages. I forwarded the complaint to Gregory, who called me laughing. This is the weakest lawsuit I have ever seen. You have a signed contract limiting guests to 300. You have documentation that they tried to bring 400. You have security footage showing they violated the agreement. This will be dismissed immediately. Should I countersue for what? Fraud, breach of contract, trespassing attempts, defamation given what they are saying about me on social media. Gregory was quiet for a moment. You could. You would probably win. But is that what you want? More months of legal battles with your family. I thought about it. Did I want revenge beyond what I had already taken? Did I want to drag them through court, force them to pay damages, make them suffer financially the way they had tried to make me suffer? No, I said finally. Let them have their lawsuit. It will be dismissed and that will be the end of it. You are sure? I am sure. I do not need revenge, Gregory. I just need them to leave me alone. The lawsuit was dismissed 6 weeks later, exactly as Gregory predicted. The judge ruled that I had acted within my rights as a property owner and had enforced a valid contract. Victoria was ordered to pay my legal fees. I never received that payment. I did not expect to. 3 months later, I was featured in a wine magazine. The article was about successful women in the wine industry, and they wanted to photograph me in my vineyard. I almost said no, too aware of how the story would look to my family. But then I realized I did not care anymore. The article came out in February. It was beautiful. 4 pages of photos and interviews. They quoted me talking about building a business from nothing, about trusting my instincts, about the satisfaction of creating something lasting. My phone rang the day the article published. It was my father. I read the magazine article, he said, and it was well done. You should be proud. Thank you, Catherine. I know we cannot undo what happened, but I want you to know that I understand why you did what you did. I do not agree with all of it, but I understand. It was not an apology, but it was something. I appreciate that, Dad. Your mother and Victoria are still very angry, I know. I am not asking you to apologize. I just wanted you to hear that I am proud of what you have built here, even if I did not say it before. After he hung up, I sat on my porch and looked at my vineyard. The vines were dormant now, bare branches reaching toward a gray winter sky. In a few months, they would bud again, would leaf out and flower and fruit. The cycle would continue as it always did. I thought about revenge, about whether what I had done constituted revenge or just self-defense. I had not set out to hurt anyone. I had simply refused to be used. The fact that my family experienced consequences from their own actions was not my responsibility. But I would be lying if I said there was not some satisfaction in it. In standing firm, in watching them realize I could not be pushed around anymore, in proving that my business was mine, not theirs to commandeer whenever convenient. Victoria and Timothy eventually married at a hotel in the city. I saw photos on social media. It looked like a nice wedding, smaller than she had wanted perhaps, but nice. I felt nothing when I saw the pictures. No regret, no vindication, just a distant sense of closure. Within a year, my mother's health declined, and my father reached out occasionally with updates. I listened politely, but did not visit. The bridge between us had burned so thoroughly that rebuilding felt impossible, and I was not certain I wanted to try. Victoria eventually sent the check for my legal fees, accompanied by a note that said simply, "I hope you are happy now." I deposited the check and threw away the note. Happiness had nothing to do with it. My vineyard thrived. I hired more staff, expanded production, won more awards. I dated occasionally, built friendships within the wine community, traveled to vineyards in France and Italy to learn new techniques. I created a life that was mine alone, built on my own terms. The year after the cancelled wedding marked a turning point. Word spread in the industry about what had happened, though the details got distorted in retelling. Some people thought I was ruthless. Others thought I was brave. I did not care much about either interpretation. I knew the truth of what had happened, and that was enough. Standing in my vineyard that night after blocking the wedding, watching 300 angry guests denied entry, I had felt powerful in a way I never had before. Not cruel, not vindictive, but simply certain of my own worth. They had expected me to break. I had chosen not to. And in that choice, I had reclaimed something I did not even realize I had lost. In the months that followed, Victoria's life unraveled in ways I never anticipated. The lawsuit against me cost her thousands in legal fees that were never recovered. Her reputation suffered as the true story emerged through mutual acquaintances who knew the full details of what she had attempted. Timothy, who had seemed like a decent man caught in a terrible situation, left her 6 months after their City Hall wedding, unable to forgive how she had dragged him into such a destructive conflict. She lost her job at the marketing firm after the stress affected her performance, and her social circle shrank as friends tired of her constant complaints and blame-shifting. My mother, who had enabled Victoria's behavior for decades, found herself isolated as well, with relatives quietly distancing themselves after learning the truth. They had assumed they could take what they wanted without consequences. And when consequences arrived, they shattered. I built something that no one could take from me, and in defending it, I learned that protecting yourself is not cruelty, it is survival. Looking back on that October day when I watched their perfect plan collapse at my gates, I felt no guilt for the boundaries I had enforced. Some called it revenge, but it was simpler than that. It was the moment I stopped apologizing for being valuable, stopped shrinking to make others comfortable, and finally claimed the life I had earned through years of backbreaking work. The vineyard still stands, the vines still fruit, and I stand with them, rooted, thriving, and finally irrevocably free.